challenge them to come out here and get off to a really good start. And, I'd say for 3 days, they've really done it exactly like we want to. Our strength staff has done a phenomenal job with these guys in the off season. They're in really good shape. They're excited to go out there. And for 3 days, this team, has practiced as well as anyone we've had over here. Now, I don't think 3 days is, 3 days is really nothing, without the rest of the finish here. But really pleased with the work so far, and we got a couple more days before they have an off day, and then from there, there's more harder days ahead. So it's a good start. I think this team's got the right focus. Pleased with the competition and the way it's going back and forth. But certainly we're a long way to the first game. I think we're on our way, but we still got quite a bit of work to do before we get there.
Hotter, or it's just our imagination that we're battling?
I feel like it's been kind of cool. I don't know. I think the hotter days are coming. No, but I mean, typically we practice in the evenings. We do practice in the morning after off days, though. If we're playing good football, which we want to do, there's a high likelihood that your game times get moved up. Last year, week 3, we had a 11 or 12 o'clock kickoff, whatever it was at home, and that was about as hot as it gets. So we will practice in the morning after those off days, and that practice is a really taxing, challenging practice. And the thing is, you got to be ready to play at whatever time. Typically our games are night games, especially early, but you can't control those things. So for us, it's we do get in the heat every day. We go outside every day that we possibly can, and we will get them in the direct heat, as we get going here a little bit. But, I think it's been actually pretty nice at night, to be honest with you.
Any movement in that backup quarterback spot?
No, we're 3 days in and we're working through it.
Are you using essentially the same rotations and all that you've used in the past when you kind of had quarterback battles, whether they were for the starter or the backup or whatever? Or is it different because of the relative field inexperience?
So what we're kind of doing right now, we have those 3 guys in the hunt, right, that are in the mix, and through 3 days, I would say they've competed really well, which is what I expected. It's happened all spring and all summer. What we do is we kind of rotate the days, right, and whoever goes with the ones, we make them the starting quarterback that whole day. And they don't split any of those reps. When they alternate and go with the 2s, we split the 2s reps where they get it even. So they have one day where it's a heavy load, they're taking all the reps, and then they have a day where they're splitting them. I think it's good for each of them to get, to be in that ones huddle, get to be the one that whole entire day. And that way there's no kind of mix up in that order. But I think every year you do it a little bit differently. Try to figure out what they need. This year, with the way we had to do our roster and stuff like that, we have 3 groups instead of 4. But, with 5 quarterbacks, we're still getting plenty of reps for all 5 of them, really.
Coach, is there kind of like any formula that you guys build out as a coaching staff when it comes to practice where guys don't get like locked into a formula like, okay, individual period is in period 2, team is in period 4? Like, is there a way that you guys kind of switch things up on a day-to-day basis, especially in camp?
Yeah, we do. Everything we do is on a 3-day kind of cycle, the way that we do it. And, with all the data and stuff that you have now, you can really tell exactly how taxing or difficult a practice day is. They have a mechanical load measurement that, our players wear these bugs and these GPSs for games, for practice, for everything that we do. So what we found, when we sat down and looked at the data a couple of years ago is that, our hardest practice format is 3.5 to 4 times harder than a game. Our middle tier is 2.5 to 3 times harder. And then our lightest day is about the same as a game. So we, certainly you need to practice, you need to overtrain at times, but there's a certain point in time where, fatigue sets in, soft tissue injuries start to happen, and really you have diminishing, effect on your team. As you get closer to the game, they start to wear down. So we tier it every day, and those practice schedules are all different. We don't want to give up the team reps because that's important. So we find a different way to maybe move group periods into indie, things like that. And then on our lighter day, it's some indie to get them loose and get them going. And it's a lot more team emphasis. So we get the plays, we get the reps, but it takes a lot of running off of them. So, I think the tools that you have and the science that you have, now you have so many things at your disposal, and we're fortunate to have those things. if you don't use them, it's kind of just a waste, And so, Connor and our strength staff, that's one of the first things that we did probably after year one was sit down and really look at the data and say, okay, like we got to do some things, maybe a little bit differently to help our guys and be a little bit smarter and still be able to get the work we need to get there. So, yeah, we alternate the practices really every day. And in the season, every day is different too. So, I think there's value in routine. But I certainly think that you can overwork a team, and you got to find that razor's edge between enough work that where you're getting better and you're improving and you're pushing them and you want the end to be really, really hard and you want them to have to push through and focus on the finish. But you certainly can't just kind of burn the candle on both ends and do it day after day after day. We alternate practices, but we work really hard to try to push them when we feel like we need to and try to find that razor's edge of, development and improvement.
This early on, what do you like to see or what do you want to see from some of the incoming freshmen?
It's fun with freshmen. They all come in at different spots, and, this summer you kind of got to see if they all fit, obviously in recruiting. Yeah, I mean, you sign them because you think they fit. You think they're a good fit for you. In the summer, the first day you get out there, it's kind of all you're watching to see is, man, do they move like the rest of the guys? How do they fit in the whole deal athletically? Now what you want to see them is just make steady improvement. And I think that's something that everyone starts in a different spot. Some guys come in maybe with a better foundation and base and background where they're a little bit faster to assimilate to what you're doing. And some guys come in and they're really a blank slate, and they have to learn how to practice. They have to learn how to compete and do all these things just by the nature of, you recruit from 1A schools to 6A schools, right? And so you got some programs that do a great job and some programs that maybe the development's not as good as maybe what you would like it to be. So you just want to see them improve every day from wherever they start. I say this a lot, I think you can maybe hope a freshman can contribute. I think it's really hard to depend on a freshman to come in and be a starter or a contributor. And I think anytime you get that, it's a bonus. So we just want to see them improve every day. And that young group has been really fun. Those guys practice like really hard and they have fun out there at practice. So they're getting better and it's a really talented young group. They're fun to watch and to go out there and go compete, and they're trying, man, every day. They're stacking up days and they're trying to critique their skill set a little bit every day.
Bryant Williams, what does he need to do to being a part-time starter and a rotational player to being that anchor, that tackle?
Yeah, well, that process has already started naturally, right? In January when it's time to turn the page. Like there's no plan B. Like you got to go and do it, and Bryant has really embraced it. He played really well for us last year when he played. The big thing is everyone's got different things to work on. And for him, I think, being 6'7", naturally he's always playing with great pad level, playing in a bend, staying in a bend, striking low to high. Hand placement, I think, is key to winning in the trenches at the point of attack. Inside hands win. And with as much length as he has, just continue to improve on all those things. And the fun thing about Brian is he really wants to get better. So like that's, just talking to him every day. Hey, these are the two things. Boom, boom, right? Hand placement right here, right? Start in a low stance, right? Every time. Great stance every time. And those are things that might sound elementary, but they're things that win. Fundamentals win. Schemes are fun. Everybody likes, fun trick plays, all that stuff. That's really not who we are. We want to play good football, and fundamentals are a huge part of that. So I think it's just consistently applying those fundamentals over and over again and knowing he's going to have to do it for longer. It won't be 50% of the game, probably be about 80%, where, again, we try to, get some of those guys in there a little bit, but, 80 to 100% of the game, he's got to do it.
Any clarity in the starting kicking position?
No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, we had some, our scripted field goal periods, a couple of days ago. We did a bunch of red zone, gold zone, and at the end of the rack, we would just throw a kick in where they didn't know where it was coming from, and they had to go in and kick. I think all three of those guys are competing well. I don't have the chart, couldn't tell you exactly who hit what, but they're competing well. And that's the thing that we want to see. You got three capable guys, so that's what you want. You want to have good players that are competing, and you get to find out who the best one is. As we get a little closer. So, we're not. you don't hurry up to screw things up. You don't hurry up to name a starter and then next week the guy's kicking it off the walls in the indoor. You want to let this thing play out. It's a consistency over time, and it's the best one over the body of work is a long period of time. It's not a week. It's not 3 practices. This goes all the way back to spring. So, just let this thing play out. And as we get closer, we'll have one of them that's doing we have one of them that's competing at a higher level than the other 2. And I think between the 3 of them, we got one that can do it for us.
Who is it?
Is it more complicated or harder to make a decision
With kickers?
than a quarterback race?
I think kicker is. I mean, let's look. There's less reps. I mean, the kicker, yesterday. When we watched it, I think we had 124 team reps yesterday. So with 5 quarterbacks, that's still a ton of reps, right? A kicker, you can't kick 120 balls a day. So, you got to chart it, and you got to the ones that perform the most consistent. I think the numbers have more to do with it. Like at quarterback, it's not just about who had the highest completion percentage, who threw the most touchdowns, who had the fewest interceptions. It's not that easy. Kicker, I think it's a little more easier. The data kind of tells you, but the sample size is naturally much smaller. So yes and no. It's kind of the numbers tell you what you need to do, but it's a small sample size, even throughout the course of spring, summer, and fall camp.
You talked about fundamentals earlier, like how important is that in the little moments, whether it's the offensive linemen, the receivers, how they run routes and all those things, into like building how you want guys to continue to develop throughout camp, like doing the little things correctly.
Well, everything is about the habits that you work to create. And, fundamentals are not something, it's not easy to do. It's not easy. The footwork and playing with pad level and your hand placement and dropping your weight and, break step, decel step, all those things are not easy to do. It's not natural for most people. So you have to drill it over and over and over again, and you stack reps. And, it takes thousands of repetitions for something to become a habit and to become something that, you become good at. It becomes natural to you. So it's critically important. Football comes down to this. It's 11 on 11 and all this stuff, but there are one-on-one matchups every single play that if you win them consistently, you win the game. If you don't win them consistently, your chances of winning obviously are very low. So everyone has fundamentals that they have to apply in their position, and for quarterbacks, you get quarterbacks from all over the place. They've all got, different coaches that have coached them, and the footwork's different. Naturally we have footwork that we believe in that works within our system, and the timing, they have to apply those fundamentals to be able to throw the ball on time, to be able to throw it accurately. Every position has different fundamentals, and you never can get enough individual time. We just have, we have an hour walkthrough, and it's all about fundamentals, and on our mid-tier practice day, we've got, 24 minutes of individual, and we expect it to be 24 meaningful minutes of individual, because that's time that you're getting that in season. You don't have that much time to do Indy. So these individual reps and fundamentals that you create right now, that's what carries you through the season. It's just not a secret. If you play better football and you're tougher and you have better fundamentals and better discipline, you win more games. So that's what you're trying to create, and there's no shortcut. Like it's there. I wish there was a magic number. If you do this much Indy every day, you get it all 100% figured out. You just have to work really hard to create new habits where when the game's gone and the bullets start flying, they're not thinking about, all right, I got to take this step and this. It's natural because they've done it thousands of times before that.
As center, Cooper's body type's a little different than some of the guys you had before. What could he bring you that maybe they didn't? What is uniquely good about him?
Well, not to say anyone else didn't. Coop is really, really intelligent. He handles the center has a lot on his plate as far as for identifications in the run game, the throw game, and all those things. And Coop brings an elite level of toughness. Yeah, you're right. He's the 6'1" guy on an O-line full of 6'4" to 6'8" kids. He doesn't look like the rest of them. But he has all the traits that you need to be that guy. elite toughness, really smart, plays really hard, communicates really well, cares about it a whole lot. I mean, he's always up there asking questions. I mean, he's one of those guys, if you don't have an answer for him, you need to go find it because, he's going to ask. So he just brings a lot of things that, there's a sliding scale. Yeah, you'd love everyone on your team to be 6'4" and run this and do all these things. That's just not the way it always works. You got guys like him that are really talented and really good because they work really hard and they bring an elite level of toughness and they push people around them. Maybe not their physical attributes or maybe not what other guys are, but the other things that they bring to the table add to the whole puzzle. And he does a great job of that for us.